session on communications and emerging technologies. To commence the session, I would like to request Mr. N.K. Singh, President, Institute of Economic Growth and Chairman, 15th Finance Commission, to welcome the Honorable Minister.
Well, good afternoon to all of you. It's my proud privilege to welcome Shri Jyotiraditya Scindia, the Minister for Communications, and we shouldn't forget the Minister for Northeast as well, a part of India which he has done a great deal to mainstream their economies into the Indian economy as a whole. It's difficult to introduce someone like Mr. Jyotiraditya Scindia because there is very little he doesn't have. He has quest, he has dynamism, he has curiosity. I was fortunate to know him much before politics attracted him. He was one of the brightest students of Stanford University. At a time when I was going to Stanford every year for the annual India conference, and thereafter went to Harvard, few have this combination of both the East Coast and the West Coast of Stanford and Harvard. And thereafter, the hallmark of his career has been dedication, commitment, mastery over the micro details of the ministries which have been put in charge of his trust. As Minister for Power, there is very little he knew. He knew far more than power engineers did. As a Minister of State for Commerce, who knows better the tariff dynamics which confront us than Shri Jyotiraditya Scindia? And now, of course, in this important responsibility, a Minister for Communications, seeking to harmonize emerging technologies with what is really clearly India's main driver of growth, the power of connectivity, what communications can bring in improving a quantum change and leapfrogging the typology of development to moving towards higher productivity, given the challenges of artificial intelligence and the other far-reaching technological changes. So all I can say is that those who are fortunate to know, and more than that, to learn from his own experience would realize what sincere commitment, dedication, the continued curiosity to learn, to unlearn, and to move forward in the commitments and responsibilities which have been entrusted him. There are few parallels. He is indeed the rising star of the Indian political scenario. He has long years to go, and we wish him well. And with these words, may I request Mr. Michael Patra, the Chairman of the Board of Governors of the Institute of Economic Growth, to make a more formal welcome to the Minister.
I'm very deeply honored to welcome Shri Jyotiraditya Scindia, Honorable Minister of Communication and Development of the Northeastern region. This milestone is just one in a long journey in public service that began in 2002. On this road, he has completed 6 terms in Parliament, spearheaded the modernization of India's aviation sector, strengthened the steel industry, including promoting green steel initiatives, led the establishment of the One Nation, One Grid transmission network in the power sector, besides active contributions to leading educational institutions and cricket administration. We are all eagerly looking forward to hearing his views now on emerging technologies in communication. So without further ado, I invite Shri Scindia to please take the floor, give his keynote address, and moderate the session.
Seated on the dais with me, a paragon of intellect, a fountainhead of knowledge, and a family member of mine, Shri N.K. Singh ji, Michal Fabinger, someone who has not only attended, as N.K. Singh ji said, both the East Coast and the West Coast, but done it at the most exalted levels, garnering a PhD, one in the science stream and one in the economic stream from both these wonderful institutions. Iqbal Sindhu ji, our own star from the IAS, and has now moved on to higher echelons. Michael Patra ji, many distinguished delegates in the audience, ladies and gentlemen. As is his strategy perennially, Mr. N.K. Singh ji has given me the arduous task of keeping everyone awake in the post-lunch session. I shall try and do my best to live up to his expectations. A person who has contributed to India's growth and India's position on the international firmament, not only through his wisdom and his intellect, but his ability to, if I may use an American phrase, cut through the chase on very, very complicated topics, ranging from the GST to the Finance Commission and many, many other contributions under his belt. Today's topic is seeking prosperity in turbulent times. And may I all remind you of a few years ago when we all grappled with probably the most turbulent time in our lives and probably the lives of the world over the last century, by the mere unleashing of a small microbe. And the devastation and the turbulence that it brought about across the globe. And therefore, from that turbulence, we learnt a very unusual lesson. That if the fate of over 1 billion companies circumventing the globe lay in the ability of a small chip the size of a fingernail. And that unusual lesson, a microchip that became the factor that would determine the output, the future, and the capability of multi-billion-dollar companies and their production patterns across the globe, all came around full circle. And for India, it was not a moment of despair, but I may say a moment of decision. And it is here that the Council of Kautilya becomes even more important. Because as he once said, and I quote, "Before you start some work, always ask yourself 3 questions. First, why am I doing it? Second, what the results will be. And third, will I succeed? And India, ladies and gentlemen, answered all of those three questions in that period of turbulence. The question the question why? Because semiconductors are not a luxury. They are the foundation and the very fabric of future progress for mankind. The question as to what the results will be. The result would be the creation of a self-reliant, Atmanirbhar nation, securing its future and the globe's future. And the third, will we succeed? And that answer was backed by India's own semiconductor mission with a capital outlay of close to 76,000 crores, setting up fabs across states from Gujarat to, as Michael mentioned just now, my Assam in the northeast, skilling close to 85,000 people across the country in this new art, if you will. And as of today, in a period of only 4 years, we have invested over 1.6 lakh crores in this sector alone. And therefore, these digital diamonds, India is determined to mine. Not by chance, but by choice. With foresight, with Swadeshi confidence, and most importantly, with the guiding clarity that Chanakya gave centuries ago. The lesson that we have learned today is that turbulence is not an aberration in history. Turbulence today has become a rhythm. It disrupts, it lurches, it tests the resilience of nations. And over the last 5 years, global geopolitical turbulence has probably been at its all-time high. Why? We have conflicts and wars in every corner of the globe. That threatens energy security. We have protectionism. That affects trade barriers. We have climate shocks. That exposes us to economic vulnerability. And we have inflation stretching its fangs across every household, including developed nations. And therefore, it begs the question of us as human beings today to ask ourselves, where does prosperity lie? And when we ask ourselves that where does prosperity lie in this era of compounded turbulence, I, for one, turn to the Austrian political economist, Joseph Schumpeter, who said and believed in the concept of quote-unquote creative destruction. And that is a feature in which one where old systems collapse and innovation creates something even stronger. So what does that mean, ladies and gentlemen? That turbulence is not a disruptor alone. Turbulence is also a catalyst. And in this tempest, India has acted as a catalyst, growing at close to 7.8% GDP growth in the first quarter of FY 25-26. India has acted as a catalyst when geopolitically she has emerged as a fulcrum for the global south. India is the voice of fairness today. India is the voice of equity. And even as old blocks fracture, India is sought out as a bridge between the East and West, as a bridge between the North and the South. India is sought out as a guide from the present turbulence to the future direction that the world must take. And therefore, I submit to you that in this age of uncertainty, which has become the norm, India is not just another destination. India, ladies and gentlemen, is the direction. India is not only the voice, India is the mission. And for those who seek prosperity in turbulent times, I urge all of them to look, move, and invest in India. Now, if turbulence teaches us anything, it is this one fact that dependence is fragility. And therefore, resilience must be cultivated within through self-reliance and foresight. And nowhere can you see this better than in the area of communications in India. With 1.22 billion mobile subscribers, with close to 944 million broadband subscribers. Mind you, 11 years ago, this number was only at 60 million. We have grown more than 15 times in the last decade of India's emergence. And along with that, you have an India today that has successfully executed 5G across the country. 99.8% of our districts today are connected by 5G in a period of only 22 months. And along with that 5G connectivity, you have now the UPI scheme, looking at India's DPI, digital public infrastructure, where the figures astound everyone across the globe. 19 billion transactions a month. Close to 260 billion transactions a year, amounting to $3 trillion. 46% of the world's digital transactions today take place nowhere else in the world, but in our Bharat, our India. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, India has emerged as a fountainhead of innovation. Our Prime Minister has always talked about Atmanirbhar Bharat being not just a vision. He has always said कि हमें चुनौतियों में अवसर ढूंढना होगा. एक आत्मनिर्भर भारत की स्थापना हमें करनी होगी. A self-reliant India. And in that vein, the Prime Minister himself unveiled last week India's own domestic 4G stack. When BSNL advanced down the route of executing on 4G, there was a difficult decision to take. The easy path was to buy equipment from foreign vendors. Only 4 in the world. It was a club of a select 4. The difficult path was to invent our own 4G stack. And for the first time in history, we saw a public sector company, CDOT, combining efforts with an entrepreneurial company, Tejas Networks, along with an Indian system integrator, TCS, and in 22 months, we developed our own core software, we developed our own RAN, our radio access networks, and we had an Indian system integrator, TCS, and last week, the Prime Minister unveiled 92,564 towers that connect Kashmir to Kanyakumari and Bharuch to Arunachal Pradesh in India with our own domestic 4G stack. For the first time, a club that was monopolized by 4 countries, Sweden, Finland, South Korea, and China, a club that was monopolized by 5 companies, Huawei, ZTE, Samsung, Nokia, and Ericsson. Today, India, ladies and gentlemen, has entered the club with its own 4G stack. And therefore, this is India's innovation capability and innovation enterprise. But we are not going to rest here. These 1 lakh towers will be the seed of the tall tree that will be established within India of technology innovation. Within the next 6 to 8 months, we will be switching these 4G towers to 5G networks and providing end-to-end 5G network capability across the length and breadth of India. We've already expanded our subscriber base, doubled it in the last 12 months on our 4G network. Today on 5G in India, we have close to 350 million subscribers. If you look at the capability of India, whether you look at our broadband penetration of 944 million, whether you look at our UPI transactions of close to 260 billion per year, India can stand out, ladies and gentlemen, as a digital-first nation of the world. And therefore today, with those achievements behind us, we look to the future. And if connectivity is the backbone of growth, artificial intelligence emerges as the next natural frontier. And therefore, India has approached this challenge or this opportunity also with our India AI mission, building large-scale computer infrastructure, supporting homegrown foundational models, and empowering startups and research institutions. I'm glad to report today that private players have already deployed close to 38,000 GPUs, investing close to 20,000 crores across the ecosystem. We are going to be investing, including our fabs, close to about $10 billion across this ecosystem. But our goals must not be focused on just imitation. They must be focused on Atmanirbhar innovation. AI designed for India, by India, in Indian languages, and for Indian priorities. And therefore, AI must not be seen as an imported product to be consumed, but a Swadeshi capability to be cultivated. And let me give you an example of that. As Minister of Communication, when I recently went to Bengaluru and addressed my Grameen Dak Sevaks of my postal offices, as I was speaking in English, there was an AI module that was translating my speech, a government-invented module called Bhashini, translating my speech into Kannada live on the dais. That to me was innovation. That to me was empowerment. But along with this innovation and empowerment, AI also faces a few challenges across the world. And if I may outline 4. The first is to be able to scale sustainably. Our data centers consume a huge amount of power. But in India, close to 30% of our power sources already come from renewable energy. Second, talent scarcity. We need to make sure that we reskill our human resource to be able to take advantage of this opportunity. The third, regulatory catch-up. The speed of innovation always outpaces policy. And therefore, within the whole of government approach, the Prime Minister has mandated two new innovations. The first, for AI in this sector, each ministry will adopt its own approach. There will not be a central regulatory approach towards the innovation in AI. The second, we must put in place regulatory sandboxes for innovation and entrepreneurism across our value chain in AI. The third is the challenge of ethics, fairness, and inclusion. And within this, building trust in the digital domain is key. Protecting our customers is key. And therefore, India is coming up with a digital consumer charter to make sure that we put those firewalls in place. India is primed, ladies and gentlemen, to emerge in time as one of the top 5 AI nations of the world. Along with this enterprise, turbulent times, as we all know, will come and go. What remains constant is India's intellect, her capability of knowledge, her capability of innovation, her capability of resilience, all the way from Kautilya's Chanakya Niti to Aryabhatta's invention of the zero. It has been a continuum of innovation in India. And that is the discovery that India is going through again today. While we talk about this environment, I must refer to two heroes of India that has emerged on the global stage. The first, Priya Donti at MIT. She's applying AI to energy grid forecasting and climate resilience. The second, Mitesh Khapra at IIT Madras, the co-founder of AI Bharat, who along with his team is building databases for 22 Indian official languages, developing India's first indigenous foundation model. And therefore today, ladies and gentlemen, as India has many firsts, seconds, and thirds under her belt, number 1 in mobile data consumption, 26 to 28 GB per month. Number 2 in internet users and mobile phone manufacturing. Number 3 in startups, scientists, and technicians. Number 4 in renewable energy capacity. With all of this under her belt, India is set to move from becoming the world's 4th largest economy to the world's 3rd largest economy by the end of 2027, and the world's 2nd largest economy by the year 2038. The power of a nation lies in her ability to harness both wealth and intellect. Today, India is doing both, building Swadeshi and Atmanirbhar capabilities, shaping the future with confidence in these turbulent times. India, ladies and gentlemen, does not just survive. She leads, she guides, along with the spirit of Vasudeva Kutumbakam. Thank you very much.
May I now request Mr. Iqbal Dhaliwal to make his brief observations. Iqbal, over to you from there.
go back. You have to go back. Yes. One more, please. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for having me on this wonderful panel. So the minister laid out kind of some key innovations that are happening in communications, and he talked about how AI can be used to kind of build on these communications tools, and that's what my mandate over the next few minutes is. I think the minister laid out many challenges like biases and other things that need to happen. To that list, I would add one more, which is how do you sift through all the incredible number of applications for AI which are being developed in India and figure out which one of these can be the most impactful, and therefore how do we work on that. And so this is perfectly timed while you eat your chaat papri to see the slides. Okay, so I think there is incredible excitement about the transformative potential of new technologies in India, particularly AI. This is just a shot of some of these things, incredible things that India is doing. But at the same time, the question is, why is so much interest in AI? And I think in particular in India, it's incredibly important for 5 reasons. A, it's a general purpose technology, which means it can be applied for everything from education to health. It's widely accessible. The minister talked about 900 million Indians having access to broadband and 5G services, which means that there are 900 million people for whom AI is just as far as their cell phone is at that particular point of time. It's low cost to add marginal users once you have built in the infrastructure. It's constantly improving, and so it's unlike giving a computer or a laptop to people. And most important, I think this is hugely important for India, it's multimodal. And what that means is it's not just typing and text, but in a country like India, it's visual and it's video-based. And that is how a lot of data and information is being processed, and AI's ability to have that multimodal ability is hugely important. So, I come from MIT's economics department, from the Poverty Action Lab, and we have done about 3,000 evaluations around the world as to what are the various development and social good programs which are working or not. So for the next 2 minutes, I'll just indulge you by kind of what are the kind of 5 key areas where we think AI for social good in India can have a huge impact. So the first is on improving program targeting and needs prediction. The example here comes from Bihar, which is Mr. N.K. Singh's home state, where the floods every year, as you know, create huge amount of havoc and damage. And AI tools are now being applied to provide early warning using WhatsApp to people on who is at the risk and who should therefore evacuate from their houses. This is something which, when I was in the IAS and the other people, was literally one Jeep fitted with a mic and walking around and talking to people and telling them all to evacuate. So very micro level needs prediction. Secondly, maximizing the effectiveness of frontline service providers, whether they are teachers or doctors or nurses. AI can have a huge impact on improving the ability of these teachers and so forth. The third is increasing access to service. Good frontline workers are extremely rare to have, and AI can relax those constraints. Example of this is farmers who can upload information about their leaves and other things and get information on diseases in a country where good agricultural extension workers are very hard to get. The fourth, this is a point that the minister mentioned about reducing biases and ensuring fairness in programs. There is an increasing use of chatbots. For instance, just yesterday, the High Court of Kerala announced that they will use live transcript of court proceedings, which can greatly reduce the biases in the interpretation of the witness testimonies by a set of judicial officers who might be thinking very differently from the things. And the last thing is boosting the tax capacity of the government. So let me kind of just skip that slide and say why this is important. I think the field of development economics is full of examples of technology which worked great in the field but never worked well in the great in the lab but did not work well in the field. So I just pulled out 2 examples. OLPC stands for one laptop per child. It was something that was supposed to completely transform the classroom, and instead ended up being one of the biggest failures, unable to increase learning outcomes for a number of reasons, which included not being able to assimilate into teacher training, learning outcomes, pedagogy, and so forth. The second example actually comes from my own randomized evaluation along with Rima Hanna of Harvard, where we worked with the government of Karnataka on installing these biometric devices in primary health centers across Karnataka to improve attendance by having real-time attendance information of doctors. And we actually found that at the end of the experiment, the attendance of the doctors decreased rather than increased, because this technology could not be assimilated in the system, and a lot of the people recognized that they didn't need to actually come to work. So I think as India moves forward on trying to become the use capital of the world, there are kind of three things which are fundamental, and every government department should be asking. What is the true impact? Who benefits from this AI application, and how will the technology integrate into the existing system? So very quickly, I will take you through three examples from around the world on how folks are doing it, including here in India. So the first question is, this application looks very good, it looks very efficient, it works in the lab, will it work in the field? One of the things that people are continuously trying to use AI for is to free up the time of the teachers away from routine tasks like grading into much more defined tasks like providing one-on-one customized feedback to students. So in Brazil, very much like in India, they have all these tests that the students have to take, and inordinate amount of time of the students and the teachers is taken every year in preparing for these tests and grading these tests. So one of the awardees of one of these organizations called Letterus developed an AI-based platform that provides students with personalized feedback. So the students write in the test, AI grades the test and gives very, very personalized feedback. So then the question became to the government, there were hundreds of people who were offering this tool, how would this tool work? They did a randomized evaluation, what did they find? We found that it increased teacher engagement by 35%, but most importantly, increased test scores and closed the public-private school gap. So if you just look at the graph on the right side, the red box is where that particular district was in the ranking. These are all the states in Brazil, and as you can see, literally the people who were getting these interventions were at the bottom of the pool, and by the time this AI tool was rolled out and scaled up, the same schools which were receiving these tools were number 2 in the country. It is an unbelievable jump in performance, which only AI could achieve. The second question is who benefits? We talked about the use of AI in the private sector. So here's an example of how it can go in 2 different directions. This is extremely, by the way, pertinent for the BPO sector in India, which provides business processing services. A Fortune 500 company provided AI tools to the business processing industry, and what they found is that the less skilled workers were actually able to catch up very quickly with the high-skilled workers. On the other hand, the performance of the high-skilled workers actually declined because they were now following the prompts rather than following their instincts and their skill sets. So it kind of went in different directions. I have listed the names of the professors who did this study. This is from Stanford, and you can follow along. On the other hand, in Kenya, when the same AI tools were rolled out to micro-entrepreneurs, it was exactly the opposite. The high-performance micro-entrepreneurs actually picked up these AI tools and succeeded. And in fact, the low-performing ones whom the AI was supposed to help the most, not only did they see a decline in sales, but in fact, the rates of bankruptcy increased because they were just following these AI guidance without applying their mind. And so this is how the exact same AI tool can go in completely different directions and is therefore extremely. Yes, extremely. Yes, so the minister is asking, so what is the learning around this? I think the learning around this is that if it is a rote task, a lot of these BPO folks at the lower skilled workers, they're just reading the prompts from the screen. And therefore, the one way to improve is to have literally the AI acts as a tutor. Rather than just simply reading the prompt, it can then figure out the answers for you, innovate, and help this person increase their learning. On the other hand, micro-entrepreneurs is not a rote task. For instance, one of the recommendations, Minister, is like increase your marketing budget. So what the low-cost entrepreneurs would do is they would simply spend 10,000 rupees more on advertising without trying to figure out where should I advertise. So I think that was a clear innovation. The final thing I will say, this is extremely important for India, is how will this technology be integrated into the existing system and processes? So a few years ago, we worked with the state government in India to try and reduce theft in GST, identify these fake firms in GST, which, as you know, is a big problem in India. The AI tool was able to flag 53% of the fake firms compared to 38% of the status quo. So you would think that this would lead to increase in GST collections in this state. Instead, tax collection did not improve. The use of the tool was completely dormant despite the AI tool performing well.
Thank you.
Thank you
very
the
much.
reason for that was people were not able to use it.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you very much. Thank you. And
Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute to today's discussion. It's an honor. My slides are quite informal. I hope it's okay for lunchtime session. And I basically have three different observations that I want to share with you. One of them on the AI sector growth, one on robotics, and a general observation on humans and their society. So as for the growth of the AI sector of the global economy, it has been enormously fast. I have three plots in here. The first one shows how quickly AI systems were capable of successfully completing a task of a certain length. So on the vertical axis, you see time on logarithmic scale. And you see that in a couple of years, the complication or the complexity of the tasks the AI systems were able to complete correctly went from seconds of human time to maybe minutes or hours of human time. So it's basically exponential growth. Here is another picture which shows the price, the falling price to achieve a given performance of AI systems. And again, it's a logarithmic scale on the vertical axis, and this fall in the price is again exponential. And a third plot I want to show you is capital expenditures by hyperscalers like Amazon or Meta. This particular plot also looks quite exponential. Maybe I will skip this one. And I just want to say quickly here that the inputs into the AI sector are growing rapidly, exponentially. The performance per unit of input is also growing similarly rapidly, or maybe even faster. And combined, this means that the output of the AI sector is growing by more than 100% per year. So if you compare this to agriculture, it's like having a new green revolution happening every year. It's enormously fast, and I'm not sure if we are all prepared for all of this. The second point I want to make is on robotics. A long time ago, people used to make fun of chatbots. So maybe 5 to 10 years ago, people would be making these jokes. You see some merchandise back from a chatbot conference where people are making fun of chatbots. But you know that since GPT-3, the performance of chatbots has been quite stunning. Today, robots are not very impressive for practical tasks. If you look at some cutting-edge research from robotics labs, they would be working with environments like what you see here. But maybe we are in the same situation as with chatbots maybe in 2019. The question is, for how long are the robots not going to be impressive? And yeah, here's a picture from the Interstellar movie where the astronauts land on a water planet. They think on the horizon it's a mountain, but it turns out to be a wave that's moving at them. So maybe robotics is like that. At this moment, people are quite underestimating what it can do, but the change can be fast. And if you look at the latest research results, they are really impressive. And when this is all completed, robotics is going to be a big part of the world economy. I may want to go through this relatively quickly. So let me say that robotics is probably going to have huge implications for manufacturing in India. If the progress is as fast as with large language models, then companies taking advantage of robotics will be extremely efficient. So then basically no manufacturing company in the world is safe from robotics. And India may need to adjust its labor laws to make sure that entire companies, manufacturing companies, don't go bankrupt because they need to adopt the technology very, very fast. Like having lower wage is not going to be protective if robotics can lower the cost of manufacturing by an order of magnitude or more.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, yeah, looks like I will not have time for
Do circulate, but
the last topic.
considering the minister's presence, I am seeking the indulgence of the organizers to slightly overshoot the time. There is time for one question which you could address to the minister, and Jyotiraditya or Monsieur Trichet would like to ask a question to the Honorable Minister.
Of course, the big question is about whether AI will substitute or complement jobs, and what is going to be the impact on employment, and what kind of strategy you think we should have and India should have to maximize the positive impact of AI on employment.
So that's a very good question, and I think you will see a bit of both happening. You will see with new technology and new innovation, you will see a lot new opportunities opening up. And there's a McKinsey study that's predicted close to about 45 million jobs in terms of new opportunities open up. But at the same time, it will make some opportunities redundant. And that number is close to about 25 million or so. So the challenge is that even though net it's a gainer for the economy, we need to take on the responsibility from a social perspective to be able to reskill the 22 million or 25 million to make sure that they're re-employable. And I think that's the dual strategy that government's following. One, to open up the environment for these new employment opportunities to be harvested, and the other, to be able to reskill people and redeploy them into the workforce.
Thank you very much. It's now my very pleasant duty to thank the Honorable Minister, the two distinguished panelists, and the time, alas, ran out, and so the lone questioner, I thank Jyotiraditya also for his rather enlightening question. Thank you very much. This brings to an end this very, very informative session. Thank you.